All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is an exciting 25 minutes or so that we're going to spend. I am joined by one of the preeminent thought leaders in the HR space, Mr. Josh Bersin. We talked to Josh a few times at Strivr with a couple different webinars over the last year. And the last time we were together was right at the beginning of, the shelter in place and everything with COVID. And we kind of talked about the state of the world from an HR and L&D perspective. And today, seven-ish months later, we want to follow up and get an update from Josh on what he is seeing and hearing in the space, as well as what Strivr can contribute as well to this conversation. We always make this a dialogue, so we'll do our best to do that again this time. So, Josh, welcome. Thank you for your time. I want to start again, just rehashing last conversation. We were together in April. And, we talked about some things such as themes, such as learning is being consumed at an unfathomable pace relative to what it used to be. The CHRO is being elevated in the organization. Why don't we just start with kind of the state of learning in the enterprise today? Yeah. Are we seeing burnout? Are we seeing, continuing elevation levels with respect to consuming of content? Just give us kind of the state of the union.
Yeah. Well, the consumption of content is as high as it was in the beginning, maybe higher. And there's also a lot of energy going into fixing and improving learning infrastructure and learning experiences, because people are working, they're working at home, in the stores, in new situations. And so if the learning experience is poor or difficult to get in, the companies are realizing this is a problem. So I was just on the phone yesterday with a very, very large retailer, and they now have IT directly helping them in their learning experience and integration. In the past, IT just didn't pay any attention to them at all. So that's a big deal. The other thing that's new is, and I think all of you know this, is the unpredictability of the virus is creating a sense of humility. And in fact, public health officials are pushing the idea that humility is actually one of the strengths in dealing with a virus, because people don't know how it's going to react. And that means companies are more and more open-minded about letting people learn new things. So, I think the content business is good. The content providers are growing. Our business is growing as a content provider. I'm sure you guys are doing well. So it's a pretty healthy time to be in the learning business. And the other thing that's new is, the data issues in learning are becoming more interesting. I know when we first started talking, Derek, in very early days, we were talking about how to deal with all this data that you guys capture in the VR world. Well, I've talked to a lot of companies now that are building data architectures for just learning. And that's an interesting and important dimension to, kind of dealing with all these human capital issues. So it's a pretty interesting time.
Cool. Awesome. Love it. Good state of the union overall. So another thing I want to hit on segueing. Again, we talked last time about the rise of the CHRO, the bigger seat at the table for human resources. What are you seeing today, 7 months later, and how do you think this plays out over time with respect to HR's role in the organization?
Well, CHROs have been essentially invited to have a seat at the table in a big way this year and given enormous amounts of responsibility for things that they really were not prepared for. Transitions of people to new roles, sending people home, bringing them back to work, creating safe workplace programs, understanding public health, getting real-time data on people's family and personal issues, changing pay, increasing benefits. Just about everything that HR people do got touched this year in a significant way with very little time. And of course, this constant need to communicate with employees and understand what employee issues are. And there's a lot of operating model changes going on in companies. If you think about retailers, they've changed their operating model this year to deliver products directly to consumers and sell online and have hybrid operating models for consumption and purchasing. And they were kind of moving in that direction before, and now they're just doing it. So HR is involved in all of those things. And And CHROs are, really stepping up. I'm on the phone with CHROs every day, and they are doing amazing things. I would say that a lot of them are a little bit tired. It's been a long year for them, just like it has for everybody else. But for the most part, I see inspiration and, kind of people just leaning into this and really, really taking the lead role. And they have the budget they need. It's not as, many times the CHRO is kind of the small C in the C-suite. Now they're the big C in the C-suite. They get to ask for things and get it. So this is a year that the CHRO can kind of set their direction and probably get the budget for most of the things they want to do.
Great. Pre-pandemic, and even during the pandemic, you have been the drumbeater of employee experience and how that is such a critical part of an organization today in the employee journey. Ironically, I am talking to you in an empty office at Strivr. It's a nice office, right? There's no one here. Yeah. So as we think about, again, what's transpired over 2020, as well as where we're going, with this office being an example, you and your home being an example. Yeah. What is going to be the most important part of employee experience going forward, or the top 2 or 3?
Well, okay, let's just talk about the topic. The word or phrase started maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and the original idea was to apply design thinking to HR. Because before we started talking about employee experience, it was about programs, processes, systems, change management, and sort of pushing things on employees. And so HR was always dealing with this issue of designing a new program and then pushing it on people and teaching them how to use it and crossing their fingers that people would actually pick it up and do whatever they're supposed to do with it. And the idea was, well, why don't we go into user-centric design like we have with everything else in the world, and study employees and what they're doing, and create journeys and agile design sessions and design thinking to recreate and understand what the employee is. And we came up with this idea of moments that matter, which are transition points where employees have problems. Well, we've grown up way past that. Now employee experience is everything from your pay, your manager, your job, your commute, your family situation. One of the things that comes up this year is if your family's having problems, you can't work, you can't get on Zoom. Maybe you don't have enough room in your home to have an office. That's part of the employee experience. Your mental health, your physical health, your pay. So almost everything in HR got sucked into employee experience. So now what's going on is companies are really assigning senior leaders responsible for employee experience, and they are doing an incredible job of segmenting or creating personas and looking at different groups in the company and what are the issues they face, and then using the diagnostic tools like surveys, which used to be done once a year and now are being done, maybe every day. In some companies, Hyatt sends a survey to employees every day, by the way. Other companies are doing that, and getting this feedback loop in place so that when employees do have problems during these designed experiences, they don't just go to HR, they go to IT, they go to facilities, they go to legal, they go to workplace safety and so forth. So the employee experience market grew up really fast this year and became, sort of an integral part of the whole company's infrastructure. And, employee experience cannot be owned by HR. It's not an HR program because all of these other disciplines and domains are part of it. And the pandemic in some ways forced this, we had these sort of silos of different service areas in the company. They all got squashed together this year around dealing with the pandemic. And we found out, sure enough, it's not that hard to work with these other groups if we have a common mission. So I think we're coming out of 2020 with a much more mature understanding. We're going to be publishing a new framework on this early next year. We've been working on it all year. So it's a big deal. And just about everything in HR has somehow impacts it too. So it's it's a big area. It's really, I look at it more of an initiative than a program. Yeah. It's really an ongoing initiative.
And oh, by the way, all of this is now happening with a distributed workforce and remote work and people working from home. Can you just, maybe say a little more about that and how you see those things tying together as well?
Well, everybody wants to debate, will people come back to work and will they be remote forever and blah, 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 blah. Well, it's very clear to me that we're basically moving to a hybrid work model where some people will be in the office for some things and then there are other times they won't be. And I don't even call it work at home. What we're really moving to is a model where you don't go to work, work goes to you. Wherever you are, you work if you want to.
That's scary. I like that, if you want to.
I mean, you go home, you go to the coffee shop, you fire up your phone, you send a few emails, you get a few conference calls. Zoom works just as well on your phone as it does on your computer. And we're at the beginning of this. You look at the new technologies. You guys work with Facebook on their VR stuff. I mean, it's going to get way better. So this question of, you have to be in the office to be part of the team, we've kind of learned this year that that's not true. But there are times when you do have to be together. There are a lot of companies that tell me that we can't do design work remotely. We can't work on big strategy projects remotely. People are tired from the remote stuff. So I'm also, very sensitive to these kind of grandiose press releases that, we're going to let people work at home for the rest of their lives. I don't think that's the way it's going to work out. And the one thing I would say that I think that we've learned from this is this idea that we don't tolerate work from home in this job is gone. There's no excuse anymore. If somebody's not there and they need to be involved in the project, great. Just plug into them wherever they are and things will be okay. And we'll work that through.
Yeah. Well, I got to chuckle. Wherever you are, you work. If I said that to our company, I'd get in trouble. I need to say, you can work from wherever you are, right?
Well,
we are talking HR after all, right?
But see, that's why you're not an HR person. So what you have to do is say, okay, well, we have a few policies. This is how many hours we're expecting you to work. You're allowed to take the afternoons off if you get up at 4 a.m, et cetera.
Yeah, we often find too, just total non sequitur. But I mean, you got to almost force people to take vacation. You got to say, hey, take time off. Do not stare at video calls all day, or you're going to burn out.
We did a lot of work on resilience this year. We did a lot of work with psychologists. We interviewed a lot of people, and one of the things that came up is if you look at the military. They actually teach people about fatigue and how to manage fatigue. And you have to force people to rest. And that means shutting down every now and then and canceling the meeting, making the meeting shorter, et cetera.
Yep, for sure. Totally agree. Awesome. So just a couple more that I want to hit on before we wrap up. So I want to kind of put two in one here. So, we are in a social distancing world. We are in a remote work world. We're in a, people not going home for the holidays world and doing FaceTime Thanksgivings instead. As it relates to the workplace, two big topics over the last couple of years, and then especially in 2020, soft skills and diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you see these playing out, going forward, and kind of what's the state of affairs today?
Okay, I got a lot to say on both of those, so I'll try to keep it fairly short. So soft skills, you guys have seen, I have renamed them power skills because the skills of patience, empathy, forgiveness is a skill, for example, right now. People are doing stuff they're not proud of because they're just under stress. Listening, caring, those are really, really important skills. And every single company I talk to says we are really going back to our leaders and we are coaching them and training them and getting them to talk about these things because we have to make sure we're not just focusing on these hard soft skills, but the soft skills. In the area of DEI, massive interest in this. Interestingly enough, it is the fastest growing job in HR. There are 4,000 chief diversity jobs open in the United States right now, 79,000 diversity managers, and the role has grown by 11% year over year. All sorts of reasons for that. But the problem is we are doing a capability assessment of all the HR people we talk to, And it is the lowest level of comfort and capability in HR because it's a very complex problem that people tend to think is solvable through targets or training. But it really has to do with creating a culture of belonging and getting business leaders to act and sort of self-inspect their own values. So it's really an interesting area. And I think that one of the reasons it's happening and one of the reasons it's important is the stress of the pandemic and the change and the working at home is really proving that the more inclusive you are, the faster your company responds. And so any company that isn't treating people well or isn't diverse or isn't inclusive is feeling the pain, and their employees are speaking up. So there's a massive amount of investment going on in this. It's the largest working group we have, and it's really, really interesting. And we'll be publishing a whole bunch of research on this really early next year.
Great. Awesome. All right. I want to respect everybody's time, including your own. I mean, we could go all day on a lot of these things. I want to close, obviously, I don't think many people at this time last year would have said, I predict there's going to be a global pandemic that's going to lead to blank, blank, and blank. But, from an HR and L&D perspective, and maybe even bigger picture than that, what are some of your big predictions for 2021?
Well, I'm in the middle of writing that, and so I haven't quite formulated into a clean little list. I think next year is a year where digital transformation will feel normal. People will feel more comfortable with it. It isn't a project sponsored by a consulting firm. It is coming to grips with it and humanizing it and sanding off the edges of it. Because this year, basically, everybody did digital transformation at speed, at record speed. And I think in the HR function, we're going to become better at understanding how leaders and recruiters and business partners and all the other roles in HR and business have to adapt to that. So we're gonna help settle it in. I think the technology market is going to increasingly adapt very quickly. VR, I know you guys are probably announcing a bunch of new stuff. I was on the phone yesterday with a collaboration software vendor that is going to be like, when you go like this or something, they're going to be able to pick that up and they're going to store all that information. This guy's happy, this guy's frowning, this guy's smiling, wow, this guy's not paying attention, and they're going to have all that data and they're going to have dashboards on that. So there's going to be some amazing technology. Microsoft's going nuts with this, Facebook's going nuts with this, Cisco's going nuts with this. There are now tools that can measure sentiment through your tone of voice, through your language. That's going to become really big next year. And then, I think we're going to be seeing probably a growing economy again. I mean, it's funny. The economy feels like this horse that's trying to get out of the barn, just itching to get going again, because there's been a lot of really positive transformation that's gone in companies. Yet we can't seem to get this virus under control. So sometime, mid to late next year, we'll probably see some really interesting economic growth, and then the job market will get really tight again, which we just finished getting through. Yeah. And then the last thing is, I think there are going to be a lot more conversations in companies about culture and development and skills. And it's going to get better. I mean, the skills conversation's been going on for as long as, you guys have been around and as long as I've been here. And we're beginning to realize that, creating great capabilities in the company isn't about buying a piece of software and turning it on. It's a hands-on consultative responsibility of the company to do that. And so I think L&D is going to be in a very, very good state next year as a result. So those are just a couple things on my mind. I'll have more when I publish it.
Yeah, I love it. So actually, I lied. I want to do one more thing and keep it to 30 to 60 seconds because I know you don't like talking about yourself. But how's it going for Josh Bersin? I mean, you went out on your own several years ago. This has got to be a time where your stock has never been higher. Obviously, you personally and the folks out there like yourself. Just give us 30 seconds on kind of how it's going for you.
It's very nice of you to ask. I feel blessed to have been in a role that is in high demand So I have worked really hard this year to keep up and try to provide value to people. I mean, I've worked incredible hours. My wife and my family have been very understanding. Our academy has more than doubled. We have close to 20,000 HR leaders in there now. It's growing like crazy. And, being an entrepreneur, I'm pretty happy with where my business life is. But I don't wake up every day thinking about creating a big company that's going to get sold. I wake up every day thinking about, helping HR people make their companies better. And the digital world of online, Zoom and all that has been really great for me. I'm reaching more people around the world more intimately, more quickly, and more scale. I used, before this, Derek, I was on the road every week. I was just constantly.
We'd be lucky to see you. Yeah, we'd be lucky to see you every month.
So I'm glad I don't have to do that. So it's been, there have been a lot of stresses, but it's been a very good year, and I'm honored to be part of this community.
Awesome. Well, I asked you that question, A, out of genuine interest and curiosity, and B, just to remind everybody, at our viewers as well as at our own company, how lucky we are to have your time, because you are one of the best out there, and we're very appreciative. So, Josh, thank you so much. Really, really happy for all of your success with yourself and your firm. Hopefully all of the information that you provided today will be helpful to a lot of our viewers, and we look forward to catching up again down the road. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.